Are infinite returns really a thing in commercial real estate? They are, and there's actually a few different ways to achieve that, but one is using OPM, or other people's money. But how do you go about landing wealthy investment partners if you don't necessarily have a track record? Well, I'm gonna give you 3 examples today that are easy-ish for you to follow so you can go get infinite returns on your next deal. Now, you don't have to be a seasoned veteran in commercial real estate or even an expert on the industry in order to pull this off. Any newbie can do it as long as you have the right step-by-step blueprint and you have the right connections. You'd be amazed at how many people are out there with a lot of cash sitting in their bank account that are too busy in their day-to-day lives to focus on buying commercial real estate. But they will invest with a skilled operator that has a phenomenal opportunity for them in order to have their money working for them. Now, yes, using OPM or other people's money can make things a little bit more complicated, right? Because now you've got a partner and really probably a boss, because you're going to have to answer to your investors. That being said, it is an incredibly necessary tool to get started in commercial real estate if you don't have the capital to do these projects on your own. Unfortunately, money is a finite resource, which means that even if you start off with $1 million, you could very quickly spend that, get the itch for more commercial real estate deals, and not have the cash to go do it. So being able to raise capital from private investors is an incredible skill for you to have so that you can continue to grow your portfolio and subsequently your personal net worth. Back in 2019, I was raising capital for the first investment I ever did, which was a 6,000 square foot office space that was really laid out for about 2 tenants. Now, I made 2 texts to investors that had known me for a few years and somehow managed to raise $100,000 from both of them. So I rolled in my 3% commission on that deal and we ended up closing, and it was a phenomenal process. But the problem with that deal was it made me think, man, it's really easy to raise capital from investors. And I was proven absolutely wrong on my second capital raise, where I had to go put $450,000 together instead of $150,000. I'm talking in-person presentations, in-person meetings, one-on-one with investors, phone calls night after night, just trying to pull the cash together. But I also ended up with about 10 to 12% of that project with zero capital into it. My keys to success in that project were 1, getting a partner that had an outstanding track record that I got to borrow since he was a partner in the deal. Even though I didn't have one, I didn't have any experience doing commercial real estate investments aside from brokerage, he had over 1,000 multifamily units under his belt. So the investors knew if the deal falls apart, this guy is probably gonna write a check for it and we're gonna be good. So that's tip number 1, is make sure you just go out and find somebody that has a track record that you can borrow. I use this strategy on every single deal that I do. And I'll usually structure those by giving them a percentage of the general partnership. Sometimes they'll buy in as a limited partner as well, but typically they're getting a minority share of my general partnership, or GP. In fact, Salt Ranch, the deal that y'all are seeing updates from me on here on YouTube that we're currently under construction on, I brought a partner into that deal that has decades of hospitality experience. 1, so that I have someone to ask questions of because I don't know everything when it comes to that, but 2, so it would make my investors feel that much better about what we were doing. Your partner with a track record is not the only person that you really need to have involved as well, though. You also want to have a highly experienced property management team. If it's a project that you're going to be operating, you want to bring in your brokerage team, your construction team, any architects or engineers. I like to show those off in my offering memorandum so that my investors can see, wow, they have assembled quite the crack team here that is going to knock this out of the park. Because really at the end of the day, as a developer or an investor, you're not a soloist. You're the conductor of the orchestra. You just need to know how everything is supposed to run so that you can direct the team on what they're supposed to be doing at any given time. There are so many different places that you can actually find wealthy investors, and some of them are honestly surprising. But when I first started networking for my own investors, I just started attending real estate investment groups. So on that second capital raise, where I put together about $450,000, the overwhelming majority of those investors came from a local real estate investment group. Now, since then, I've utilized social media, YouTube, the podcast, Instagram, to continue to grow my email list so that I always have a fair amount of investors. But I and also just very intentional about making sure that everyone that I come across knows that I put together commercial real estate investments, and if they want to invest money with me, they have that opportunity. A few years back, I actually had a mentor that every single time he met somebody, he said, I help people invest in real estate. Do you have any capital that you are looking to put in play? And wow, did he raise a lot of money. So if you are not going to be your own evangelist and go out of your way to make sure every single person you come across knows that you raise capital for real estate investments, how are they going to know that you have the opportunity to make them money? So if you're first getting started, of course you want to be networking as early as possible and building up that potential list of investors, but you also want to be focusing on having one skill that is going to be incredibly valuable to everyone that you come across. And in my opinion, and I may be a little bit biased since I started off as a commercial real estate broker, that skill is finding deals. If you can find incredible deals, it will make the rest of your life so much easier, because then you start putting the right opportunities in front of the right people, and lo and behold, now you're getting involved in a deal that you probably had no business being involved in. And I'll give you an example. Back in 2020, when the world was at an end, I decided, you know what? I'm gonna go out and find a crazy deal. And that's exactly what I did. I got a tiger by the tail when I put an $18 million shopping center under contract. Now, keep in mind, at this time, I owned 4 commercial properties that were probably all in total under $4 million combined. So this was a significant leap for me, but I knew that it was a hell of a deal. So I put it under contract, started making calls, and at the final hour ended up partnering with a group out of Texas to acquire that property. They brought the debt, they brought their investors, and it all started with a deal. You want to make sure that when you're talking to potential partners that you are as buttoned up as you possibly can be. You're going to want to know how many square feet it is, what it is currently zoned for, what could it be rezoned for if it needs to be rezoned, what are the rental rates, when do the leases expire, what are the market rental rates, is there potential for us to go ahead and raise those rates as soon as we take over, thereby increasing our NOI and increasing the value of the property. You could also dive further into construction costs, development costs, what is coming down the pike in terms of future development in the area that could add to the value of your property. Anything that is going to be of significance when it comes to this deal is on the table for you to need to know about. Now, typically I will pitch these deals to my investors via a webinar so that I can pitch to a lot of investors at once. And I'm just walking through the offering memorandum that I've already put together, using that to prompt me as I'm speaking through the project. But you could also sit down with these investors face to face and walk them through the deal. You could also do what I've done in the past, which is host investor tours. We did a luncheon tour where I bought a bunch of lunch for all of my investors. We threw them on the bus and we went out and toured a property so that everybody could look at it, get eyes on it, see exactly what was going on, ask any questions, meet everybody else that was investing in the deal, and it was a smashing success. So what are the 3 most attractive qualities that you as a new commercial real estate investor can have to attract other people's money? Well, 1, a track record. I know that's kind of hard to do when you're first starting out, but borrow somebody else's. 2, knowledge around the deal. Make sure that you know it inside and out. Nobody knows this project better than you. And 3, make it worth their while. Is it a 6% cash on cash return? Is it a 12% cash on cash return? Do they want double their money? Do they want 100% of the depreciation and no cash flow? And the answer is, unfortunately, yes. All of the above. You can structure these deals in any way that you want, but you want to make sure that you are comparing it to other market deals, see where else that these investors could place their capital, and make sure that you're just doing a little bit better than that. The stock market historically returns around 8 to 10%. So make sure that you're stronger than the stock market. Look for 12, 15, 20% cash on cash returns. You could also look to double their money over 5 years. That's typically what we do in our projects. I'll tell you exactly how I set mine up. We do an 18 to 22% internal rate of return with a 20% annualized cash on cash and a 2 times equity multiple. That basically means that over 5 years, if you give me $100,000, I'm doubling your money and giving you back $200,000. Now, that doesn't make sense for every single project because I typically do heavy value add, riskier assets, which means I need to compensate my investors more. If you're going for multifamily today, you're probably looking at closer to an 8 to 12% cash on cash and hoping for a 12% internal rate of return. Every single asset class is a little bit different. Every single investor is a little bit different. But here's the thing. Don't get greedy. Way too many first-time commercial real estate investors think, I want 50% of this deal. I found it, I'm doing all the work, I deserve 50%. I'm not gonna lie to you. On the first project that I ever did, which was a 42-unit townhome development, I wanted 25% of that project without putting any money in, without signing on the debt or having any previous experience. Looking back, it's laughable. It's a little ridiculous that I wanted that much of a $6 million construction project. However, I ended up settling for 10%, which of course is more than fair. Now, I put all of the sweat equity for 2 years into that project, but 10% is a lot of a project you're basically getting paid to learn. So treat it as such, and it doesn't have to be that way forever. Do that for your first deal. Just do it as the opportunity to learn, get out there, crush it, add that one to your track record, and move on to the next one. And I always recommend, just start small. My first capital raise was under $150,000, but it also meant that I didn't have that much pressure on me to go out and raise a bunch of money for my first project, and it's all about getting that small win, the first success when it comes to raising capital. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you can make as an investor when raising capital? One, not being persistent enough. If an investor hasn't given you an absolutely hard no, I'm not giving you money on this deal, they're still a maybe. So just keep going down that path until you get the no. Another thing, make sure that your offering memorandums look perfect. No typos. Check them 10 times. Have somebody else check them 10 times because you're gonna get so blinded by the amount of material, the amount of writing that you've put into these, that you're gonna start skipping over any potential mistakes. I actually keep offering memorandums with typos in them on my desk over there because it is inspiration for me that if that person can raise capital with that offering memorandum, we can do anything. So utilizing other people's money, OPM, is a great way for you to get started, but if you don't want to deal with partners, what are your opportunities? Check out this video here on creative financing for commercial real estate. I'll see you there.